Now that you know a little more about resolution, I'm going to show you how to identify what your shots are in Premiere. So now we have our shots here. I'm going to bring this up. Oops. I'm going to shrink it a little bit so we can see. Okay, so I have my clips imported for this assignment here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to list view, little corner over here, and then it will tell me some more information about the footage I have. So what we're looking for is, let's see where it is. Video info. So here we have our 1920 by 1080. Here we have a number bigger than 1080. So we assume those are 4K. We have a couple that are bigger than that. We have some footage as low as 720, so not full HD, just HD. And we have some more 1080 footage. Right now, I want you to ignore the soundbite for Premiere and the soundbite for Audition. That's for the second part of the assignment, which we'll get to next week on Tuesday. But for now, I want you to make note and maybe relabel which ones are 4K in this assignment, because we're looking for some 4K shots to do a matched edit. If you haven't read this week's assignment yet, I may pause this video if I were you and go read it, because this will make more sense afterwards. So now that you've noticed what you have, I typically recommend going for setting up your timeline in accordance with your lower resolution footage. You can push this up to 1080. It is going to be a little less clear than the shots next to it. It's arguable whether it's noticeable or not, and you can kind of decide. That's typically what I recommend. But for this project in particular, I want you to set up a 720 720 resolution timeline. So the way to do that is File, New, Sequence, and then you're going to select the 720p, and you're going to select the 24, and that is the one you're going to select for this assignment. Under Digital SLR, there's also one under HDV. Either way, select one of those two. Okay. Make sure it's the 720-24 frames per second though. So then it puts a little sequence in here, and I'm going to switch back to this view. Hopefully you've labeled them. And if you didn't, you can also, from this view, say, right click on it, and under properties, it will also tell you that information. So I know that this one right here is 4K. So I want to do a match edit with 4K shot. So I'm just going to drag this one onto my timeline. Now this pop-up window, I used to tell you to hit change sequence settings. Don't hit that anymore, because from every assignment from now on, you're going to actively decide how to set up your sequence and your timeline in accordance with the footage you have, so we don't have another moose butterfly problem. You will actively decide which one to set it up for, and you're going to say keep existing settings. Write this down. When this pop-up window comes up, say keep existing settings. And then you'll see that the footage is super zoomed in because it's a smaller 720 timeline with 4K footage. Now, you can right click, and I want you to hit set to frame size. Don't hit scale to frame size. Write that down too. Set to frame size, not scale. Set. And then it basically did the same thing as double clicking and filling the frame with it. So now this is a way to cheat a matched edit. Before, we spoke about how it's better to do matched edits with 2 cameras, or you can cheat with repetitive motion. This is the second way you can cheat, is with 4K footage. So I'm going to turn this volume down for now. Let's watch through this. Okay, so I want to do a matched edit to the tire of this, or maybe to his face over there. Let's see what works out. The start of this clip's not very useful. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it play, and right there I want to cut to a closer shot. Now I'm going to hit change the blade tool, make a cut, and then switch back to my arrow and zoom this guy in. There we go. Now let's play through that and see what happens. It looked a little weird since he was turning his head there, so I'm actually going to cut to the tires on the grass instead. And there we go. I have created a matched edit. That is how I do it. Now you have a video of it, so you can rewatch this if you struggle. Also, a way to tell how, if you've zoomed in past the point where you're reducing resolution. So I'm gonna open my effect controls window over here. So on this footage here, it says scale is 71. So let's see what happens when I change this to 100. So it zooms in more. So if I zoom in past this 100 point, then I am losing resolution. But if I zoom in less, I haven't lost resolution with my 4K footage on the 1080 timeline. You see, if I put 4K footage on a 4K timeline, it would be at 100 when you filled the frame. So that's how you do it. That's how you create a matched edit. And then to check that you aren't reducing resolution, you can click on effect controls and make sure you haven't zoomed in past 100%. Okay. So you have to have one matched edit done. You can't use this shot by class on Tuesday. So you have to find another 4K shot in here to do a matched edit. And also, I'm going to show you how to do a keyframe movement. So we're gonna get rid of this guy over here. Just gonna extend it out, and we're gonna do a slow zoom in while the camera is moving. So that is some basic animation over here. So I like to start usually a little bit after the camera's been moving, and then I'm gonna reopen effect controls and give it a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this toggle animation stopwatch for both position and scale, because that is where I want it to start zooming in. So you'll see here that it made 2 little diamonds. So now I'm going to move further along in time to where I want it to stop zooming. So I want it to stop zooming there, and then I'm just going to tell it where I want it to be. As long as these are activated, I am going to just tell it where I want it to go. So I'm like, I want it to do a slow zoom in to the tire over here. And let's watch that over and see what happens. You'll see it made 2 more diamonds there when I clicked and finished the zoom over there and told it where I want it to finish. And there we have it. It does a slow zoom in across the time. So let's say I wanted the zoom to happen faster. I could just click on these little keyframes. That's what these are called. And then it will get to that point quicker. So I just tell it where to start, where I want it to end and when I want it to end. And Premiere does something called interpolation. Write that down, interpolation. And it does the math to figure out how fast it needs to move to get from point A to point B. I will say that if you accidentally click somewhere else in time and then move things, your clip's gonna do all kinds of crazy things that you didn't mean for it to do. So if you make a mistake, I would say highlight all these, delete them, deactivate your stopwatches, and start from scratch by activating when you want it to start, moving your timeline, and then telling it where you want it to end. Now you have to do this with a 4K shot as well, so you have to find a different 4K shot to do a keyframe movement on, and it can't be the same one that you do your matched edit on. So I want a keyframe movement, and I also want you to stop zooming before the shot ends. Okay, so it is not allowed to be longer than a minute. So just do it short to demonstrate your skills. You are demonstrating skills here. So just back to back, I want one matched edit and one slow zoom in. And then I want you to label them. So put text on the video that says matched edit, and then on the other one, I want you to put keyframe movement, because this is what this is called, this little animation in a way. I've mentioned how I don't like that word much, but that's kind of what it is a keyframe movement. Cool, so work on those, and I want those two done by class on Tuesday.